Surot sa NAIA, Marcos, protesta sa Australia, EDSA, people power, at marami pang iba. Kumusta for me? This is for Joseph and welcome to News I Deem Worthy Recap, Weekly Edition number 40. We have tons to cover since last week, so skip to the timestamps provided if it piques your interest. Kaya maganda na for the blazing selective summation. Here are some page news commentary for your convenience. Sara Duterte, binura ang EDSA post. Sa isang deleted post posted on official VP Sara Duterte's account, nakikisama si VP Sara Duterte sa paggugunita ng EDSA People Power Revolution at ng legacy nito sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas kung saan kanyang ina-advocate ang paglaban para sa kung ano ang tama, gunitain ang revolusyon at bumuo ng bansa kung saan nananaig ang hustisya, kapayapaan, at kaunlaran. Matatanda ang last year, hindi ginawang national non-working holiday or any kind of holiday ni President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang EDSA 1 sa ika-38 taong anibersaryo ng EDSA People Power na dinaluhan ng maraming human rights icons kasama si Attorney Chel Jokno kung saan sila ay nag-hold ng pagdiriwang para i-commemorate ang EDSA People Power Revolution. As a quick reminder, EDSA 1 or the People Power Revolution aka the Yellow Revolution aka the Bloodless Revolution ang nagpatalsik sa in total 21 taong rehimen ng kanyang ama gamit ang isang mapayapat, bloodless na revolusyon ng masa sa pangunguna ng mga religious leaders.
My dear people, I wish you to pray because it's only through prayer that we may solve this problem. This is Cardinal Sin speaking to the people, especially in Metro Manila. I am indeed concerned about the situation of Minister Enrile and General Ramos. I am calling our people to support our two good friends at the camp. If any of you could be around at Camp Aguinaldo to show your solidarity and your support in this very crucial period when our two good friends have shown their idealism.
Masa at byuda and future President Corazon Aquino sa isang maladaluyong na dilaw ng pag-asa at mga ribon na nagdadala ng pangako ng bagong buhay at demokrasya sa ating bansa upang protektahan ang mga tumitiwalag o mga tumiwalag na nag-mutiny na general katulad ni na Defense Minister Juan Ponce Enrile at Acting Armed Forces Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Fidel Ramos, later the President after Cory.
I cannot in conscience recognize the President as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, and I am appealing to my brother members of the Cabinet to heed the will of the people.
I am with Minister Enrile, and the reason for my being here, ladies and gentlemen, is that because the Armed Forces of the Philippines has ceased to be the real Armed Forces of the Philippines.
Coincidentally, inamin ni Juan Ponce Enrile na pineke niya ang ambush sa kanya ng mga rebeldeng komunista raw kuno to justify the martial law that Marcos wanted to put down. Then again, retracted his statements sa isang vlog ni then loser Vice President hopeful Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Ngayon, he's now the Chief Presidential Legal Counsel at 100 years old. Ginawang excuse ni President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na sa linggo dadaan ang araw ng pagtanggal ng diktadoryang rehimen ng kanyang ama, kaya minabuti niyang hindi na lang ilagay dahil most Filipinos won't be affected by any kind of holiday proclamations since sa linggo nga daw siya mapupunta. Pero if that's the case, bakit hindi mo na lang siya ginawang holiday in the first place since halos wala naman talagang magbabago? What gives? You went out of your way to avoid commemorating and celebrating the celebration regarding the movement that toppled your father's regime and basically ousted you and the family for a few decades. seems like bitter ka pa rin na napatalsik ang diktadura ng iyong ama. I mean, I get it, pero seems like gusto mo talagang magstay sa position mo until the end of your term, trying to rehabilitate the Marcos name, which is apparently your sole purpose for running, sabi nga ng kapatid mong si Aimee. Well, gununtain natin, louder and stronger than the previous celebrations and commemorations of this momentous occasion combined, kung saan ating patuloy na ipagpapalaban o ipaglalaban ang kagustuhan ng sambayanan para sa isang representanteng pamumuno na inuuna ang bansa bago ang sarili at pamilya. Ating iligwak ang mga malisyoso at nakakabahalang subversyon ng katotohanan at huwarang pagbubura ng ating kasaysayan, tulad na lang ng pagtanggal ng DepEd ng curriculum outline from diktadurang Marcos to just diktadura to sanitize or basically sanitize, well, his father. Check my NIDW recap number 17 for the whole spiel, pero as I said earlier, mukhang ang top and foremost purpose ng kanyang kandidatura at pagtitimpi in the midst of all these chaos at commemoration ng pagpapatalsik sa kanyang ama hanggang masanitize ang kanilang pangalan at makabalik sa political, cultural, at social zeitgeist. Kasi even then, kahit na he's a bit popular, well, the political zeitgeist doesn't really like him to be in any sort of position. Pero now, since he's the president, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Sinabi sa panibagong post ni Vice President Sara Duterte na itinanggal raw ang post commemorating the EDSA People Power Revolution dahil wala raw itong pahintulot sa ating VP na i-post ang ganoong message. Truth is, neither of them is even acknowledging EDSA as anything but any other day, at least even Marcos. BBM, Prinotesta sa Australia. In-address ni President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang Australian Parliament as part of his official state visit sa Land Down Under, kung saan naglabas ng placard ang isang senador upang ipahayag ang kanyang pagdismaya sa mga nangyayari sa Pilipinas. Ayon kay Senator Janet Rice, kaya niya pinull out ang placard that read, "Stop the human rights abuses," ay dahil under the current president, corruption is getting worse with hundreds of political prisoners and justification of extrajudicial killings with the anti-terrorism law na in-implement back in 2020, I think, under Duterte. Habang nagsasalita si BBM sa harap ng Parliament, in-escort out siya palabas ng House of Representatives for causing a commotion. Sumabay siya sa mga nagpoprotesta sa labas ng Parliament as the Australian government warms up to the Marcos administration as Marcos becomes the first Filipino president to ever address the Parliament.
Human rights matter, and they matter for every person in the world. I am proud in this Parliament over the 10 years I've been here to be speaking up for the human rights of people across the world, whether it's the Philippines, whether it's Tibet, whether it's West Papua, whether it's Palestine, and here in Australia. The action I took in the House today was deliberate and it was powerful. And I did it on behalf of every Filipino person whose human rights have been abused by the government of President Marcos and the government of President Duterte before him.
And to be fair, napaka-OA nito. If anything, human rights abuses actually cooled down under his term due to the foremost or aforementioned sanitization of his names and his father's legacy. Kumbaga, this is their last chance to ever sanitize or at least make the Marcos name more fragrant than the current peddler of fake news has already been doing. So there's that. Here are some more page news for your convenience. NAIA may surot. Sa isang viral post, ipinakita ng dalawang netizens ang kanilang pagkadismaya sa mga surot na naglipana sa kanilang rattan chairs habang nag-iintay ng flight sa NAIA Terminals 2 and 3. Coincidentally, after makamit ng San Miguel Corporation ni Ramon ang mahigit 170 billion peso rehabilitation deal sa loob ng 15 taon with a possible 10-year extension starting their takeover of the airport in the next 3 to 6 months. Ina-highlight ng insidenteng ito ang pangangailangang i-rehabilitate ang nag-iisang gateway ng mundo sa Pilipinas at ang kanyang national capital region, or at least the most immediate way we or the people outside could go to the national capital region. Humingi ng paumanhin ang Manila International Airport Authority sa dalawang netizens na pinaglantakan ng mga surot na tila'y nagutom sa tagal ng kanilang delayed flights. I mean, even them is having to put up with the hassle of going to other countries to spread their fucking genes or whatever they do. Kanila ring tinanggal na ang mga rattan chairs dahil, of course, it's infested, and even though na-fumigate na yung mga equipments and the chairs that was used, it's better for them to just take it out, even though it was and supposed to be their pride and joy of Filipino artisanship or something. I'm not sure. Matatandaan rin kinikilala ang clusters of airport ng Ninoy Aquino International Airport as one of the worst airports in the entire world. And this just goes to show the need for rehabilitation at readjustment na ating mga gateway. Kumbaga, it's basically at moot point already, but we have to at least have some reforms. And again, rehabilitation and readjustments. Pero never ever sa e-bikes, e-trikes banned na sa ilang major roads sa Manila. Inalabas na ng The Metro Manila Council ang isang resolution na nagbabawas sa mga electric vehicles tulad ng e-bikes at e-trikes kasama ng mga tricycles, kuliglig, sidecars, pedicabs at mga kuliglig sa mga major roads tulad ng National, Circumferential at Radial roads sa Manila. Papatawan ng 2,500 pesos na multa ang mga lalabag sa resolusyon. Re-require na rin ang mga drivers ng aforementioned vehicles na magpakita ng lisensya kung ayaw nilang ma-impound ang kanilang mga sasakyan, at least in Metro Manila. Ayon sa acting chairman ng MMDA, hindi nila sinusupil ang mga nagmamaneho ng e-trikes, e-bikes, sidecars, pedicabs, kuliglig o tricycles, kundi nire-regulate lamang ang kanilang paghahari-harian sa kalsada dahil sa mga nakakasangkutang aksidente sa mga major roads na pinagmamaneho nanuhan. Binaban ang mga aforementioned vehicles sa mga susunod na kalsada. Of course, I'm not going to say them all kasi nga nakakatamad at i-type and even sabihin. So, basta, I think I'll be flashing it on the screen, so just pause it and then come back to the video. Otsenta pataas, may pera na. Nilagdaan ni President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. ang isang direktiba para amyendahan ang RA 11983 o Centenarian Law na nagbibigay ng 100,000 pesos sa ating mga centenarians or ang ating mga senior citizens na uaabot sa tumataginting ng 100 years of age as a show and testament of appreciation sa ating mga senior citizens at sila'y matulungan kahit kakaunti sa mga gastusin sa maintenance, pangkain at pang-aliw. Pinalawig ni President Marcos Jr. ang mga makaka-receive ng cash sa ating mga senior citizens na aabot sa mga milestones age na 80, 85, 90 at 95. Kumaga every 5 years, starting 80, would receive 10,000 kung saan sila ay makakatanggap ng 10,000 kada milestone na kanilang na-achieve. Dagdag ang pagbibigay ng 100,000 pesos sa pagtutong ng 100,000 basta ganun. Here are some global/international news for your convenience. Hungary approves Sweden's bid for NATO. In a momentous occasion, Hungary has approved Sweden's bid for joining the NATO after being held up for a few years as it utilized following Turkey's step of delaying Finland and Sweden's bid as the two refused to budge, extraditing Kurdish protesters in their borders, and Erdogan's branded these protesters as terrorist organizations aiming to undermine Turkey's sovereignty. Hungary was the lone detractor to Sweden's accession to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which used to aim to combat the growing influence of the then USSR and the awkward moment when the USSR applied to join the very thing sworn to destroy them. So that's actually kind of awkward, since why are you joining us if we were supposed to stop your influence? NATO requires all members of the organizations to approve the ascension of those bidding to join NATO, so it has to be unanimous. Sweden's ascension to NATO is a huge blow to an already tightening living space of Putin's Russian Federation, as just last year, Finland, a little neighbor of Russia, I think it's like a few 100,000, no, not really 100,000, but at least a huge chunk of bordering land between any other countries with Russia as its party, has been kind of inside NATO. Sweden's ascension to NATO is a huge blow to an already tightening living space of Putin's Russian Federation, as just last year, Finland, a literal neighbor of Russia, succeeded in appeasing detractors to be the last or latest addition to worryingly and rapidly growing NATO, which could also lead to a more anxious Russia following Russian military operation in Ukraine, as Putin thrones shaken and quakes as the operation turns into a embarrassingly stalemate, kind of like what happened when Tsar Nicholas wanted to fight Japan and lost badly in the Russo-Japanese War. Alexei Navalny, lone Russian opposition, found dead. Alexei Navalny, a known opposition leader of the Kremlin and Vladimir Putin's regime, was found dead in his prison on February 16, 2024 after taking a walk in western Siberia and complained feeling unwell that morning. I mean, no shit, Sherlock. Why would you walk in western Siberia? I mean, walk outside? Really? Succumbing to his ailments later that afternoon. He is a staunch critic of the Putin regime, being the only legitimate opposition to the strongman's rule in the Russian Federation for the better part of a decade and more. In 2013, he ran for the Moscow mayoral election, coming in second with 27% of the votes, and was barred in 2018 to run into 2018 Russian presidential election. In 2020, he flew back to Moscow when he mysteriously got ill and was brought to Berlin to receive treatment, basically violating his parole. It was found that he was poisoned by a Novichok nerve agent, a frequently used nerve agent by the Soviet Union and Russia, or the Russia Federation under, I forgot his name, the first president of Russia in its early years.
This is Alexei Navalny, a prominent Russian opposition figure and Kremlin critic, lying on a stretcher at the Omsk airport sometime after he was poisoned. After an emergency landing, passengers could hear Navalny wailing in pain. He eventually lost consciousness and has been in a medically induced coma ever since. Navalny's airplane, an S-7 Airlines flight from Tomsk to Moscow, was diverted to Omsk Central Airport. After the emergency landing on the Omsk tarmac, a video from a passenger shows medics walking to the back of the aircraft to attend to someone moaning in anguish. Another video shows medics removing Navalny from the plane and transferring him to an ambulance. He was then taken to the Omsk Emergency Hospital No. 1.
This sparked massive protests across Russia as after returning to Russia from Germany, he was immediately detained and accused of violating parole after being hospitalized in Germany because he was using or at least having his treatment done in Germany after he was poisoned in an airplane with the Novichok nerve agent. He also used his platform on YouTube to expose the government, particularly Russian oligarchs and most notably Putin, of their corruption and kleptocratic rule for pushing for more reform in the Russian Federation, aiming to end the one strongman Putin-centric rule. Which just goes to show that Putin's fiercest and most feared critic and political rival is a freaking YouTuber. I mean, that alone speaks volumes. His death, like his arrest after returning to Russia, caused massive protests across the Russian Federation as the lone significant political rival has met his momentous doom after the leader of the Wagner Group, Yevgeny Prigozhin's death last year after mounting a pretty effective and incredible coup to the Minister of Defense or MOD in Russia and consequently Putin, since MOD or the Minister of Defense is just another tentacle of Putin. He was accusing MOD of starving his troops of manpower, killing them actually, like launching rockets at them and, starving them of weapons, ammunitions, and everything in between. At yun na po tatapos ang News Item Worthy Recap Weekly Edition for roughly the 5th week of February 2024. Mag-suggest more topics and requests to balitas if you feel I misrepresented them in any way. Salamat sa mga panonood, mga kabayang Avour me, like, subscribe, and follow my links and socials on Avour Jusek that would be linked down below. Sa susunod bali, paalam. Also, Happy Leap Year. Sa susunod bali, paalam.